Hi, welcome back, and I guess welcome to a brand new three-part video series. Kinda. I was rewatching Fairy Tale recently and I wanted to make a video on it, so I'm making three. Uh, Three about the Slayer type magics in Fairy Tale, explaining what they are, what Slayer type magic is in general, and the differences and idiosyncrasies in each of the different types of Slayer magics. Those being God Slayer, Devil Slayer, and Dragon Slayer. We're starting off with God Slayer because it's likely going to be the shortest of the videos. And there's also just not a lot to say in general about the God Slayer magics. That said, let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting up here, I'm just going to give a quick overview on what exactly Slayer type magic is. It is a power in the Fairy Tale series that made its first appearance in the very first episode of the anime, and I believe the second chapter of the manga. This ability allows a user to generate an element from any part of their body, as well as become immune to that element, and consume it to regain power. It also grants the user added effects and just an increased effectiveness against that specific type of thing that the Slayer magic was made to kill. As seen in cases such as the 7 Dragon Slayers versus the 7 Dragons in the Dragon King Festival, and Shelia and Wendy versus the Time God. Getting into God Slayer magic specifically, there is a unique aspect to it that the color of the elements that we see have a more black and darkened shade to them, denoting them as divine. And something else to keep in mind from that, as seen when we first run into Zancrow, the Fire God Slayer, is that other Slayers cannot eat their divine elements. As seen when Natsu tries to eat Zancrow's divine flames, and it actually hurts him. There is a way for a Slayer to eat that element, but it is incredibly difficult, and Makarov himself says when Natsu does it, if he had made one mistake, he would have died instantly. I guess I should probably go over the three, technically four, users of God Slayer magic. We have the Fire God Slayer Zancrow, who was the first to appear in the series, and then we have Shelia, who is the second, and Orga, who is the third. Technically, Shelia is the third and Orga is the fourth, because Natsu uses God Slayer magic in a single fight against another God Slayer, and he uses it in conjunction with his Dragon Slayer magic, making it more of a hybrid spell that he came up with on the fly. But he did technically use it, so I'll bring that up here. And I'm actually going to go in reverse chronological order and start with Orga, because there is not a lot to say for him. Orga is the Lightning God Slayer, and a member of Sabretooth. He was first shown to use Black Lightning in a match against a Quattro Cerberus character who I don't remember the name of. I remember he used Tear Magic. That's about it. And he used a special black lightning spell. The thing is, both of the spells that we see him use in the series are essentially the same exact spell, even down to almost having one-for-one the same names. That said, Orga doesn't really give us much to work with. So, next I will be covering Shelia Blendy. Shelia is the Godslayer we see the most of throughout the series, being a major supporting character in both Leon's story and Wendy's story. Because of this, we get to see a lot more spells from her throughout the series, such as Sky God's Boreas and Sky God's Dance, as well as Trailing Sky Arrow and Sky God's Blizzard. She's also the only Godslayer in which we get to see a Godslayer secret art, that being Heavenly Gathering of Clouds, which I imagine is fairly strong because when the other members of Lamia's Scale see her getting ready to use it on Wendy, they are all 100% sure that Wendy is going to die if she takes the hit. But something to keep in mind with Sky magic, Sky Godslayer magic, is that just like with all other Sky magic we see throughout the series, this grants the user the ability to heal others, as well as the unique ability of the Sky Godslayer magic, the ability to heal themselves mid-battle. She's also the only one we get to see actually use her powers on a god, and it is effective, but it's unclear how effective because of how much else is going on in that fight, with her third origin being awakened and just a lot of other stuff going on around the peripheral characters in the fight scene. That said, we'll be ending this out with Zancrow, the very first Godslayer we see. Alrighty, moving on to Fire Godslayer magic, used by Zancrow. This was the first time we'd seen another type of Slayer magic, as well as the first time we'd seen Godslayer magic. As such, we see a lot more basic abilities, such as Zancrow using a lot of mirrored versions of Natsu's fire dragon techniques, such as his fire god's bellow being a reflection of fire dragon's roar used by Natsu, or his flame god's Kagetsuchi being a reflection of fire dragon's brilliant flame. Though it was shown that in general, his abilities did overpower Natsu during the beginning of their fight, they became on much more of an even keel, and Natsu is able to beat him after learning how to absorb his enemy's flames. And while Natsu says after the fight, when he's talking to Wendy, I believe, that was the first time that flames have felt hot to him in ages, this is actually contradicting something that we hear Zancrow himself say, that his flames do not burn, but instead annihilate things as if a halberd is destroying everything entirely. And this is even seen when he uses Fire God's Scythe to cut down a bunch of trees in his attempt to kill Natsu, and it doesn't burn the trees. There aren't even any singe marks. It instead just cuts down the trees. Keeping all of that in mind, we do not hear anything of the sort for Shelia's Sky God Slayer magic, or Orga's Lightning God Slayer magic. let's wrap this up now with a few stuff that I didn't really have a good category for. Well, and such. It's unclear how one goes about learning Godslayer magic. Either we have conflicting reports on it. Zancrow says that he learned how to use Fire Godslayer magic from Hades, but that is somewhat contradicted by how we know Shelia learned Sky Godslayer magic. She learned it by reading a book in her guild's library. So it's unclear as to how exactly Godslayer magic is learned, but it's, to be fair, Devil Slayer magic is also kind of inconsistent, and the only one we have a confirmed way of learning Slayer magic is for Dragon Slayer magic. And even then, there are a couple of different ways to learn that, so there may be multiple ways. Some other uncategorized things include how Sky God Slayer magic has the unique ability of healing oneself, as opposed to Sky Dragon Slayer magic, which cannot restore oneself, but can restore others. In general, it seems that God Slayer magic is stronger than Dragon Slayer magic, and presumably Devil Slayer magic, but the difference in strength can also come down to which wizard is better, and who's using the spells. Another thing that I just need to mention for completion's sake is that it's unclear if Natsu could use Godslayer magic again. He has not shown the ability to do so, but some stuff I will get to during the Dragon Slayer video may prove otherwise. With that, I think that is the end of this video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.